dun. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? And welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show, where we have the discussions that inform, entertain, and challenge educators to be the change. Each week, I zoom in a leader in social education and or entrepreneurship, and we chat about ideas and strategies on how you can live your best life and become the CEO of you. I am your host, Dr. Will. And today is going to be a different show than from what I usually do. We will be talking about how do you push forward when you have setbacks in life, because all of us sit down and we make out these plans about by this age or by this time, or we're going to be doing this, we're going to be doing that. And sometimes life has a way of pointing us in another direction, or something happens in which we're like, wow, I didn't see that coming. How do you pick yourself up? How do you push forward? So today's guest is Nakia Brandon. She came on my radar because of Twitter. She's also a unique guest because she is not yet a certified educator. She is still in undergrad. But her story is very powerful to me and very poignant on this topic that I want to share with those of us who are actually working in the field. So, Nakia, for those who are watching, will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Nakia. On Twitter, I'm Discovering Nick, and on Instagram, I'm Discovering Nick. So I'm Discovering Nick. I'm Nakia. Hi. And I am an AmeriCorps Vista. So my duties in nonprofit and specifically education.
Awesome. So, who is Nakia Brandon, and sort of what gets you going?
So I'm such a complex person, and there's not just one thing I say about myself. But I think to sum it all up, I'm just a dreamer, and I'm a dream catcher, and I am inspired by people's authentic selves. I am inspired to show people their truth and be more aware of, and to become more aware of their truth and my truth. And in that process of showing people who they are and showing people that it's possible to chase their dreams and create a life that they want for themselves, I learned myself, and I learned the beauty of just human nature and just like the human connection. And so, yes, I live for that. I breathe for that. So that's who I am.
Mm-hmm. So in a time when so many people they're okay with just giving the minimum, what motivates you to become your best self?
I think thinking of all of the things that I want is the biggest thing. Sorry, I'm rocking back and forth. This is like a nervous habit, so don't mind me. But I think for me, I'm sorry, repeat your question. What motivates me to keep going, right?
To become your best self.
Yeah, it's just thinking of the things that I want in life and making a plan and being surrounded by people who want the same things or who are, to me, higher up. And so I make sure that I am surrounded by these people, and I always think of the things that I want in my future and in my life, and that keeps me going. That really keeps me going.
Mm-hmm. And so you came across, my radar from coming on Twitter and going and reading your blogs. And one of the posts you wrote about was about your pivot from wanting to pursue a career in nursing to now pursuing a career in education. What was that moment like for you when you knew or you made the decision it was time for you to move in another direction?
So many moments, actually. So many signs, actually. And I think for me, the signs started when I was like a freshman in college, but I noticed them and I knew that there was a problem and they made me uncomfortable, but I ran from them. And I just, there's some things that in our life, right, that like, that we always think about, that we always come back to. And it's like, why do we keep going back to these things? It's like making you crazy because you can't get it out of your head. And for me, I was always addicted to understanding the truth, the why, the connection between like human and just human nature and just like experience and freedom and inspiration. And and I guess for me in college, I remember going to my guidance counselor before I switched from nursing to education. And I remember going up to her and I said, I don't know why I'm here, but I had to make an appointment because I am not happy with my major and I have no clue why. And I'm tired of not knowing and I need your help because I'm struggling. And we sat down and I remember her looking over my transcripts and she was like, well, Nakia, I'm kind of confused because you are a good student, you make good grades, you don't seem like you're struggling on paper, but why are you struggling? And I remember leaving the meeting after crying hugely. And I said, I just feel uncomfortable. And I think we know when we are uncomfortable and we know when we need to move and we know when there's something else that's for us. But because we stay in comfort, we stay in that, we are afraid to move, And I think for me, that moment when I spoke with my counselor, I remember saying, I never want to feel like this again. I never want to feel like not knowing again and not being confident because like I move through confidence and I move through like just like light and if I can't do those things then I don't want them. And if there's ever a career or a job that doesn't allow me to move through those things that make me me, then I don't want them. Nursing was one of those things. So it took more of a self-reflection than it did a career, like then mapping out a career was more so like, who are you? What do you love? What do you like? And that's where it started.
So how did you push forward to get to where you are? Because, many of us can know something isn't right.
Yeah.
There's just nothing clicking here, but we still stay in the same situation. You can know, look, I'm just showing up to my job every day and I'm not happy, but I got a mortgage and some kids and some stuff going on. And instead of sort of doing the work to find out what's wrong, what's missing, and to then create a plan to move forward, we just go, I'm an adult, that's life. And we sort of stay where we are. So how did you go from, I know I don't ever want to feel this way again, to putting yourself on a path to where you are now, where you are moving into that light?
A lot of prayer. And I feel like I am saying the most cliche line right now because I never thought that I would say that. Because every time I watch someone say that, I'd be like, "You are BSing." But I think for me, I had a plan on. So I completely like changed my life when I didn't know. Like it wasn't like I continued to do the same things that made me stay in that situation. It was like I had to change some things. Like I had to move. So one of the things was surrounding myself with different people. I still kept my friends around and the people I cared for, but because I was so focused on a goal and focused on like the self journey, I had to surround myself with people who I thought were inspiring, and I had to constantly be surrounded by these people. That was one of the things. The next thing was doing some things that made me feel beautiful. And hair, nails, and eyebrows, like just appearance, was one thing that made me feel beautiful, because it worked from the inside and out. And then also working out was something. And then I became more confident. And I feel like when you become more confident in the gym, like you can kind of become more confident in real life. Like you're kind of like, all right, just 10 more hours at work. I got this. Like nothing's stopping me. That was it. So friendship, doing things that make me feel happy, or finding those things, and also being okay with uncomfortability. So like reading books was one. Pretty much like changing my life. I didn't go out much, and so I just stayed focused on figuring out who I am, and what I wanted, and I had to let go of the expectations and the fears that I put on myself, because I had to realize that no one really cares. And once I realized no one really cares, then I was like, oh, well, then I care. And I need to do what I want to do. So I did that, and I let go of, my parents and society. I don't care. Don't care what no one thinks if I feel like it's okay. So.
Yeah. All right. So I watched a video, because I want to bring this back to education. I watched a video on Facebook where you spoke about a message you received from a parent of a child you were tutoring. And the parent expressed how that child had grown and was enjoying school and doing well. And as you were talking about that, you became emotional. Where did that emotion come from? And what does it mean to you to be able to make a difference in the lives of young people?
So I remember when that particular student of mine came into successful tutoring lessons, and I remember his mom, she called me, and she was completely like, I need your help now, like today, okay? Like, I don't know when you're going to help me, but today. And so she was like, we have these type of problems. His teacher is saying he's diagnosed with ADHD. His teacher is saying that he might have depression. His teacher is saying that he's flunking out of class. His teacher is saying all of these things. This one person is saying all of these things. And I was like, why do I keep hearing these patterns in the Black community? Why do I keep hearing these patterns of these kids who have ADHD and who have all these mental disabilities and disorders? Okay, since they do, I want to prove it. I want to see if they really have it. And so as I was going through the journey with him and showing him different strategies and ways in which he can study and gain confidence in himself, to see him transform from a incomplete to 100%, like in a month and a half, like I could do nothing but cry, because there was a moment when I was his age, when I was that kid, and I felt insecure, and I didn't feel confident in my abilities to be a great student or to be a student, and so I didn't excel. And so to see him go from not excelling to excelling just reminded me and put me back in that place of little Nakia. And it takes these stories like his and all of my other clients, it takes those stories for me to feel like I'm doing it for a purpose, and then I'm doing it for a reason, because there are kids who are depending on people like me, and I need to be out there for them, and I need to show up for them, and I need to prove to them that they can do anything that they want to do. And despite what their teacher says or what society says, it doesn't matter, because those are just opinions and they're not real. And I'm getting emotional thinking about it now, because like the education system is so messed up, how they try to teach kids that like grades make you, because they don't. And I want kids to understand that it's okay that you can make a bad grade, because that just means that's just not for you. Doesn't mean you're not smart enough. It just means you don't like it, and that's okay, you know? But I want to teach kids and I want to teach people that when you work with yourself and when you are patient and when you pay attention to the things that you are good at and that you are skilled at, and even to the things that you are not good at, you can combine them all together and strategize and plan a way for it to make sense for you. And that it doesn't matter what anyone else says. And so it's good to be a guiding factor and to be there in kids' lives to do that for them, because those kids remind me of me. And it would have been nice back then to have someone who was there with me all the time, or when I felt insecure. So, yeah.
All right, people. I've had my first Oprah moment. I'm on my way. So from the inner work that you have been doing to light your path forward, what are the rules of success you live by? Oh, she got some. Ooh, that ain't a teacher thing.
For one, always have a planner and always write things down. That is rule number one to success. Rule number one is always writing it down and planning it and doing it over and over again. That's number one. Another one is being learning the importance of patience when it comes to the self journey and when it comes to success, because like we all know success doesn't happen overnight and it's a long journey. And so learning to be patient and loving yourself through that is the most important part. Also, one thing of success for me, maybe it's because I like teaching or whatnot, but this whiteboard is my life. I use it whenever I feel like it, and I had to buy a big one because I need colors and a lot of inspiration. But having this whiteboard is really helpful when it comes to planning and success. A planner, yes, a planner. And those are the physical things. But let's see. I think mainly just learning, being okay with not knowing, and loving yourself through that journey. I feel like it's the biggest key to success. Loving yourself through it all, and then congratulating yourself when you finally achieve whatever you think is successful. I think that is what success is to me.
Usually I have people on this show who are, twice your age or older. And it's interesting to hear these life lessons and gems, drop from someone, of your age, because I'm 44 and
Hey.
Say what?
You don't look 44. Hey.
They say black don't crack.
You had to push the glasses up.
Yeah, but if you see the gray, it's really the gray is in the house, but the skin is still supple.
Right.
I can't believe I said that on my podcast.
Jesus.
But the thing that I have learned at my age and continue to learn is to truly walk in myself, within myself, and like be okay with knowing that is not only enough, but the only thing that I need to do.
Yeah.
So when I'm out here trying to get to the next level, look at you. when I'm out here trying to get to the next level, whether it's in my, my day job or what I do with consulting and all those things, I'm surrounded, by a lot of people who have reached heights higher than me, and they're doing these things. And I just can't get wrapped up in comparing my journey to theirs, comparing what I do to what they do, and understanding that, hey, that's their lane and it's cool. And I applaud them. And I'm like, you go do your thing, but understand where my lane is, and understand that within staying in my lane and growing within my lane is where I will find my greatest success. So it's interesting, again, to hear your perspective from, you.
Thank you. I love your points too, because the saying when they say like I think one of my sayings that I say a lot is worry about your grass. Like don't worry about nobody else's grass, bro. Like if your grass is not green, your grass is lime green right now. If it's yellow, then you still got some work to do. And we always have some work to do. And so we have to remember to pay attention to our own grass and to water our own grass before we can worry about anyone else's, right? And be able to and be comfortable with saying no is also one. Be comfortable with saying no and being like, it's okay, I'm sorry, I don't have enough water to give you today. Like my glass is kind of empty, right? And like I'm tired and I don't have anything to give. So today, no. Catch me next week. Maybe I can do that for you. But yeah, because oftentimes we can get discouraged and get off of our path because of other people. And it might not be on purpose, and it can be like coincidentally, but it happens. And if we do not pay attention to ourselves, and if we do not go with our own flow and worry about our grass first, I don't want to say always be selfish, but be selfish when you need to be. Like, don't be selfish because you just want to be, because there's no reason behind it, But yes, making sure that you pay attention to you and not letting other people distract you. So I liked your point. I loved your point when you said worry about your grass. Yes.
That's all right, y'all. Look, I'm telling you, I'm loving this podcast, and I'm sitting on 10 episodes that I'm going to be releasing, like a week after week after week, but not this one. This one is coming out today. I'm loving this conversation, and it's one of those things where I want people to listen to, and that's part of the reason for season 4, the change of my podcast, is to get educators to level up, because there's no need for anyone to wake up in the morning and hate going to work, particularly in education when you got to worry about other people's kids. And so when you're talking about, I hate going to work, plus you got to deal with somebody else's kids, that is a bad combination. Yeah. So I want people to be excited. You know what I'm saying? I want people to be excited about work and excited about the children they're working with, excited about the possibilities, and not just like, oh my gosh, I got to see Jimmy tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Just like be amped about it. So what is your advice for those individuals who they've been working on a plan, but they haven't seen any traction?
I feel like I'm talking to myself too in this moment. Patience, temperance. I've been hearing that word a lot this past week and a half, and I'm so glad you asked that question, because patience, patience, and being okay with not having it all figured out right now, because I had a coworker ask me the other day, they said, where do you see yourself in 15 years? I was like, 15 years? I'm only 21. What makes you think I'm going to really know what I want to do, where I'm going to be in 15 years? That's unrealistic. Those are unrealistic goals and expectations that I'm not going to put on myself. So I think for people a some advice I would say is making your goal kind of small. Don't make your goal really big. When you feel like you're stuck, maybe it's because of the goal. Maybe the goal needs some refining. Maybe the path there needs some refining. And it's kind of like a rough draft. Your plan is never complete. You have to do it first, and more than likely the first time is going to suck, and so is the fifth. And you need to do it at least 12 times before it actually works. So I think that's one thing we need to know, that the first draft, the first step, is always the best step because at least we started. But be patient enough and have temperance and love yourself enough to try over and over and over and over again and forgive yourself enough. That is key. That's a word. I needed that word today. Yeah.
Awesome. So before we go, I'm not going to ask you about the 15-year plan, but I do want to ask you about sort of what's next for you. And I want to ask you that because, on my phone, I get these notifications that someone is going live on Periscope. And you get on there and you talk about these, you have these videos about making stuff happen and, getting out there and living your life to the fullest. So in that spirit, what's next for you?
So many things. I'm trying not to limit myself and not listen to people when they say, like, you have to choose one thing, and you need to know, because, honestly, I do graduate next year, and I really do need to know. And honestly, I don't exactly know where I'm going, but my hopes would be to do Teach for America for a few years. See how that goes. Maybe try out the East Coast with Teach for America would be like my biggest goal. And I want to dive down that path for a while and see how I feel about it before I decide if I want to change my mind, if I do decide so. I still love teaching. I still love leading. I still love inspiring. I still love students. I still love organizing. I still love these things. It's just specifically finding where, in what specific element. And right now I'm okay with not knowing because I don't want to put so much pressure on myself. But I know in about 5 months I would be like, it's time to hurry up, Nakia. But the biggest goal is Teach for America. I would love to try that out. And then in the future, I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully somewhere on TV somehow. Definitely not acting. But it would be with inspiring. I just don't know where. But that's a dream.
Awesome. You should start a podcast.
Podcast, you think?
Yeah.
Okay. People listen to those, actually?
Yes.
Okay.
You're on my show.
That's you, right? Well, I found you from Twitter, so that's so different. Okay, podcast. So what do you do on here? You just interview people.
I interview people, and there's different type of podcasts. Some people interview other people. Some people do episodes where it's just them talking.
Uh-huh.
And I know some people who do a combination of the two. And then there are huge people who, whether it's Tony Robbins and other people who have podcast shows, and they just put those, ideas out there. And for them, I know they're providing value, but it also is a tool to sort of funnel people into their programs where now you fork over the $2,000, the $5,000, the $10,000 to come actually see them speak or to get that coaching. But what I like about podcasts is being able to provide value to people, inspire people, entertain people, to educate them on things to sort of get them to take that first step. because none of us and I don't care who they are, Oprah or anyone else, and no one can do the work for someone else. But what I can hopefully do with my podcast and what you can do with your podcast is to awaken people to the idea of I have to do the work. And if they take the first step, then that's on them. And so that's what I try to do, is to sort of get educators thinking, how can I take this first step? Or how can I think of this differently? Because they themselves will always have to do work. I can't do it for them. Just like I tell teachers at school, you can't make Jimmy learn. You can't do the work for Jimmy. But what you can do is set up a classroom environment in which Jimmy feels sort of excited or has ownership in his learning, in which he will take the step.
Thank you for your insight.
You're welcome. Just an old man over here.
Thank you for your insight. Yeah. So maybe I will try that. Maybe I will dive into podcasting. See, so you just come up with like topics to talk about, and you just talk about it, and you don't create a script or anything.
Nope. Really, I come up with questions, of course, but I don't come up with a script.
Okay, so I choose stuff to talk about. Okay, and then do I create like visuals to tell people, hey guys, my podcast is going. You have live podcast, right? Live podcast. Do you have live podcast, or you have to like?
I used to do it live, but now it's not live. So this is just being recorded. The only people who are seeing this are us.
Okay.
And when I'm done, the video will download, and I will post the video to YouTube with a graphic, and then on iTunes, where I have the iTunes is from an RSS feed from SoundCloud, so it'll go to SoundCloud. It'll have your picture, what the show is about, your bio, and any links that you give me you want people to be able to go to, and then it goes there, and it'll be pushed out to iTunes. And so the people who follow me on iTunes, or maybe they go see someone else's show, iTunes will sort of recommend like, go to the Dr. Will show, and then I can be, found that way. And so I'm having a blast. I'm low tech in terms of, the only time I get my audio edited is when I have problems, and then I'll send it off to a sound guy. But normally everything works well, and I just send it off. I do promo graphics for the show when it goes up on YouTube, but normally I just do it. Now, some people graphics are real tight, and they have the sound production, and they do all those things, but it takes them time to do that. So their shows don't come out as often as mine does, or they have other people doing it. So I shoot 3 podcasts a week. And I used to release all 3 in 1 week, but I don't do that anymore because I'm trying to save my episodes, so my wife and I go on vacation or whatever. I want fresh content still coming out,
right? Instead
of nothing is coming out because I'm not doing anything. So that's why I'm holding on to stuff to then at that point be able to go, Will hadn't shot a podcast in a month, but it's still fresh, new stuff still coming out. But I think you would do well because, one, you're already doing those live videos.
Okay. I was like, people like these? Okay.
Yeah, you're already doing it. And so I would say with the podcast, when you say, hey, TV, and I want to inspire and I want to do these things, the podcast is a way, I think, and it's very popular, for you to reach that audience, for you to inspire people, to educate people. And you can do it in a very low-tech way, whether it's doing Zoom. Now, I pay for Zoom, but I love it because we've been talking and we haven't had a lot of disruption in terms of like YouTube, Google Hangouts do. And when I end this, I'm going to get 2 separate files, the video file and an audio file. So I don't have to separate anything. It's already done for me. And then there are apps that you can record straight on your phone. So I have an iPhone, and there's some Android apps where I can record here, and it'll send it straight to SoundCloud or other places. So that's why I love it, because it's, in terms of production, it's just very easy to simple to do.
So it naturally goes to, if you have a podcast, I'm assuming you have to have an iTunes account too.
Yes, when I created my podcast, when I went to iTunes, I had to create the iTunes account for it and sort of tell Apple what my show was going to be about, whether it was going to be, because they ask you, do you have profane language or not? And I was like, no, it's clean, blah, blah, blah. And you'll get a message like Apple tells you, because you also have to put in your RSS feed from where it is, because you do not upload directly to iTunes. You have to take it from a WordPress or a Podcast Beam or a SoundCloud or something else. And you put that information in there, and you get the message. It can take 24 hours for Apple to make the decision, blah, blah, blah. But mine, within a couple of hours, my podcast was showing up on iTunes. And now whenever I post a show, it's immediately sent to iTunes. And so those who follow me on iTunes will get that message. Hey, new Dr. Will Show episode is available. And then I have a friend who has a much larger audience than I do. And so when my stuff is popped out, then she automatically pushes it out on her end. And so now I'm being introduced to her audience.
Neat. I like it.
Awesome.
Thank you for inspiring that.
I appreciate this. And we have gone far over the interview questions into this podcast stuff. So hopefully people, you have stayed with me, because I'm not going to edit this out. So thank you, Nikki, for being a guest on the show.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to speaking with you again.
Yes, because you'll be interviewing me on something in the future. So
Tell me shortly.
Take it easy on me now.
I will.
All right, people, you know how I do this. The video cast will be going up on YouTube. I need you to subscribe. I need you to leave your comments. The podcast itself is going up on iTunes and SoundCloud. Again, I need you to subscribe and leave your comments, because your boy's trying to get Oprah on the show, and I need her to know that I'm dope like that. Yes. All right? So people, as always, invest in you, EDU. Peace.